Hey guys, so today I'm here with Maria. She's a student and a friend of mine, and we decided to get together today to talk a little bit about Taylor Swift's chart. And the reason for this was that we've been thinking about doing this video for a while now. We tried before, but things didn't go according to plan because it was during Mercury retrograde. And then I thought about putting my YouTube activity on hold for a while to focus on my PhD. But then, Taylor Swift released a new album on Friday, and so we decided that this was the adequate time to do the video. So the idea is just to look a bit at Taylor Swift's chart and to discuss some of the themes in the musics and some of the persona, the public persona she has created according to her chart. And basically, it's also part of a plan to introduce more astrological interpretation, actual astrological interpretation in the channel, rather than just, discussing things about astrology in more abstract terms. So that's basically it. And so Maria and I are fans of Taylor Swift. We discovered this during the courses that I was teaching, and it's always been a sort of private joke between us that this is a thing. And basically that's that. So I'm going to give her the word so she can introduce herself, and then we'll move on to chart interpretation.
Thank you, Simão. Hi, everyone. My name is Maria. I'm a friend of Simão, as he said. And I'm just an astrologer for fun. Like, I learned astrology to know a little bit about it. And so I can do this kind of thing of seeing the charts of celebrities and the charts of friends and just have fun with it. So this Taylor Swift is quite an interesting case in the sense that her chart is actually a lot on her music, and you can see it in her career. And one of the favorite things for me and Simão as well is the fact that she is a Scorpio rising. What can you say about that, Simão?
Yes, so I need to say something boring in the beginning, which is that
Yes.
there are two conflicting times for Taylor Swift's birthday chart. So birth chart. So you'll have in Astro Data Bank, which is one of the biggest repositories of public figures charts. They'll say that the data is dirty. So that's a way of categorizing birth data because there are two conflicting dates. But there's a lot of reason to believe actually that the date with Scorpio rising is actually more accurate than the other date, which has Capricorn rising. She still has a lot of Capricorn energy anyway in this chart, so that's fine. But so we do, and both Maria and I always had this, I think, this feeling that she was a Scorpio rising, even when the only chart available was the Capricorn one. So that was more of a confirmation of something that we thought it was pretty obvious. I think that the way her public persona is built in many ways, and the way it was built before and after the album Reputation has a lot to do with Scorpio, and it has a lot to do with this sort of venomous side of Scorpio that can be really passive aggressive, or that can be really that can really enjoy a sort of confrontation and these sort of poisonous and passive aggressive remarks that a lot of her music has, and it's actually really cool. But I think you're probably the expert here more than me, so if you want to comment on that, and we can then develop the Scorpio side, that would be great.
Yeah, that's fine. Like personally, this is a personal preference. I feel like most of Taylor Swift fans are not for this side, but the two of us happen to be. I really appreciate her petty side. It's something that drew me to her, and I think it was the same for you too. With the Look What You Made Me Do and all that imagery of death and revenge, you know, like very powerful. I was already a fan before, but that completely sold me, and I've been a great fan ever since. And so we have a lot of examples of like Bad Blood in the album 1989 with the revenge against Katy Perry for a very silly reason. They're over it now, but all of that army of singers and popular people just like, oh, we have Bad Blood now. It's just like so extra, you know. And even Shake It Off and Blank Space as well. So this is 1989, but even before then, with songs like Better Than Revenge, which is, you know, you have to turn off your feminism to listen to that song, but it's the lyrics of the song are very like about revenge and like hating that person for taking away the guy that you care about, etc. And so she's always at this side, and it's something that I particularly appreciate about her. And it's just a lot of fun to see it so well represented in her chart, in her Scorpio rising, and then in the Mars that hits the angle as well. So yeah, so definitely.
There's also something we're not talking about this in a at least I'm not talking about this in a judgmental manner, much more in a kind
Neither
of
am I.
aesthetical
yes.
choice, but
Yes.
that Mars there is a very self-centered Mars in a sense that it rules the first house, so it's the ruler of the ascendant, which is a very important planet in people's charts, and it's then conjunct the ascendant, so it's very, very prominent. And these and there's an image in Look What You Made Me Do in the video clip that for me is really sort of this sort of illustrates this specific position, which is when she's singing at the sort of the top of a mountain of tailors that are climbing towards her, and there's a huge huge neon T behind her, and she's talking about how she'll be present in your bad dreams, she'll be the actress in your bad dreams, and all of this. This is such stark Scorpio imagery, not in the sense that a lot of modern astrology thinks of Scorpio merely as kind of overly sexual somehow, but more than the sort of over sexualization of Scorpio in modernity. It has a lot more to do with the pettiness and with these and with the poison, the idea of poison, the idea of death, the idea
of obsession as well.
Sorry?
The idea of obsession?
Yes, the idea of obsession, definitely. So this is much more powerful. And I was just thinking about Bad Blood. Of course, Bad Blood sort of is an imagery that brings you back to poison in a way, right? So that's a lot of very interesting things going on, I think, in this first house, and in this Scorpio in the ascendant, definitely. But of course, there are other sides to Taylor Swift. That's what we were talking about before starting the video, which is the new album. It does have a reference to Scorpio that Maria will talk about in a second, but it does not really cater to this petty side. So there's this sort of mutable quality to Taylor Swift's work that is quite baffling in a way. So you have to fish for it around the horoscope. But do you want to mention the Scorpion first, and then we'll move on to that?
So like in the new album, like I don't think mostly the themes are very Scorpio, but there's at least 2 songs that the Scorpio comes across. And the main one is, of course, Mad Woman, which she says that it's about the tale of a misfit widow getting gleeful revenge on the town that cast her out. That's what she says about the song. So again, the topic of revenge and Scorpio. And it includes the lyrics, does a scorpion sting when fighting back? They strike to kill, and I will. And this is very Taylor Swift, because she's not afraid to pack her punches. She maybe disguises it somehow, but she stings. You know, it's a Taylor Swift thing. She stings, and there's like some lyrics in this song that kind of like bring us back to Kanye and Kim and that old feud that has been following us, like, or that has been following Taylor's career for like quite a few years now. And she talks about a couple that comes after her, or after this character, this mad woman in the song. And so it's hard not to make those associations with this part of Taylor's history. But of course, this new album, like listening to it, people think of sadness, of love. There's a lot of like infidelity topics. There's a lot of like young love nostalgia, and that's not necessarily a Scorpio aesthetic. That might bring us more to our Cancer moon, maybe.
Yes,
What do you think?
I would think that sort of aesthetic is much more of the Cancer Jupiter side of it. So I would think that in terms of the way her songs kind of play out, I'm always sort of drawn to three positions here, which is the Scorpio, as we talked about, and the Sun in Sagittarius, and then the debacle in Cancer, which is the moon Jupiter conjunction in the 8th house in Cancer. And the reason for this is that you do get a lot of nostalgia in her songs. You know, if I haven't heard the last album with much attention, but if you look at songs like Cornelia Street or Miss Americana and stuff like that, there's a building, there's the construction of a sort of nostalgia empire that makes sense with other singers like Lana Del Rey, who also kind of goes for that aesthetic and also has Cancer positions in the 8th, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a sort of aesthetic that really works as well right now, right? We've been during this time, you know, for a number of years and a number of years in the future, going through Neptune in Pisces, and so nostalgia is a thing in pop culture right now, and a nostalgic aesthetic. So that works really well, I think, and also because this moon is then in tension with Aquarius. So of course, because it's an opposite, and Aquarius generally represents the breaking of stuff. So you will have nostalgia for things that are felt as completely lost, you know, things in the past that suffered a cut that seems to be it does not seem to be recoverable. That's basically what I would say. I also think that the Sagittarius position has a lot to do with her sort of hopeful personality that exists in stark contrast with the Scorpio personality. That's why I'm interested in, for example, the fact that she decided to name a song "The Archer" in a way, despite the fact that you can probably find Scorpio energies or Scorpio themes in that song as well. So, and this has to do with something in astrology, which is when someone has a chart like Taylor Swift's, in which the sign of the sun and the sign of the ascendant are adjacent. You know, these signs, they don't have an aspect between them, so they are very different in a way, and they will produce people that have personalities that do not seem very congruent on a surface level. So yes, do you want to say anything about
her son
of the things I said, you know, about Sagittarius or
of course, like I think Taylor herself likes her Sagittarius sun a lot. I'm not sure if she's that into astrology or not. It's my belief that she does, because there's a couple of astrology references in her work. The Archer, as you mentioned, is like the most obvious one, because even the symbol for the song at the time, it was the Sagittarius symbol, single. And the themes of the song, they're very intense, and it's about like that trouble that Sagittarius has with intimacy. like they sometimes they think of themselves as too much, and they want everything, and maybe if they throw the arrow over there it will be better over there. So of course that brings a lot of struggles into their intimate lives, and the song is very much about that. So I think it's impossible for her to not at least care about Sagittarius, if not anything else, even though I do think she also cares about Scorpio. And there's others. My favorite song, or maybe it's not my favorite song anymore, but I still love it a lot, which is State of Grace from the album Red. She's talking about a lover, whoever that is, it doesn't matter now. And she mentions that they are twin fire signs. So, I mean, she knows that Sagittarius is a fire sign.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think, like you said, like this hopeful side of her, like the more party goer side. Not that she's that much of a party girl, because she's not, also because of this Cancer moon. But when she's happy, when she wants to be with people, she's very much a giver in that sense. And I think the Sagittarius comes out in those moments. This last album, I wouldn't say it's an album where, like in folklore, I wouldn't say that Sagittarius is a big thing. It doesn't really,
except in the title, probably. So that's one of the
folklore
things.
yes,
That's one
I guess
that called my attention, was his change to. I just think that these, if you think of lore, I mean, it's not that folklore is necessarily something evidently associated to Sagittarius, unless we make the connection between lore and knowledge, and so that to me makes a certain amount of sense, especially because her closest aspect is an opposition between Jupiter and Mercury. So there's this tension here between high learning and practical learning, in a way that would be present. So that did call to my attention. But it also calls to my attention this thing, how dramas in the music community, which is a very mercurial, you do see a lot of singers and people like that with prominent Mercuries. How she has a tendency to sort of be in situations that blow up, so to speak, and that's very Jupiterian opposed. That's very Jupiter opposed Mercury as well. So, but on the other hand, you have the dream of music, in the sense that Mercury is very close to Neptune. So you have the dreaming about music as well. So I'm very interested in those two positions. Yes.
Yes. I see what you mean, and you drawing attention to that, because I hadn't considered it. Because I know that she has like a stellium, a Capricorn stellium here that we need to address. But I hadn't considered like Mercury's part in it, and of course, like there's the fact that she's a singer, which is the obvious Mercury thing. But then the part with the controversies, I didn't know that you could relate that to Mercury, but of course it makes sense.
Well, in the tension, in the context of tension, in the tension, not Mercury. I'm just saying because of the people watching, not sort of. It's a thing about being outspoken as well, right? So if you think of Jupiter as blowing up stuff or making stuff bigger, there's a thing about blowing up stuff. In that sense, I think, and Uranus is also very close. So because she also has two considerable presences in Cancer, which are Jupiter and the Moon, which are very powerful because they are connected with Cancer. So one of them is in its domicile, the other in exaltation, which is astrological jargon to say they're powerful in Cancer. And so they're causing quite a lot of stirs there, I think, versus the Saturn also in Capricorn. And I just think because in these charts specifically, the midheaven is ruled by Mercury, and then Mercury is in Capricorn in the second. So that to me is a very powerful signature of a singing career, a specific signature of a singing career. So that was the reasoning. Although I think there's something about ambition as well that you'll probably be more qualified to comment on than me. I've always had this.
No, definitely.
That she a small town girl that succeeded, and so there's the Capricorn narratives there probably that I'm not sure about.
I wouldn't say that she's a small town girl per se. Obviously, she was born in a small town, but her family was quite well off, and that allowed her to relocate to Nashville when she was like 13 or 14, and that was the beginning of her big music career. I'm not sure if that fits the narrative of like actually starting from zero, you know, because it's different when you are poor and when your family is quite well off to like the beginning is a little bit different. But of course, she was not known musically, and she made her career like from her knowledge, and she was already a very good singer and songwriter, and that's why she signed up. I think she's the youngest writer, youngest singer to ever be signed up by Sony.
Yes.
At the time, she was. I don't know if in the meantime, but she was 14 when she got signed on by Sony. So yeah, I hope that also fits the Capricorn themes, but she's definitely, as you were saying before, because you were talking about ambition, but you didn't know that much about that part of her, and that's also one of the qualities that attracts me to Taylor Swift, because I think of her as quite an ambitious person, and for me that is not a negative thing at all. Because she just wants, you know, she wants to make a mark. She wants to be huge. She wants to be undeniable, no matter if you like her or you don't. Of course, she has a thing for being liked, and that's a lot of her pettiness coming from there, of like trying to accept that she's not going to be liked by everybody, which is hilarious to me. But she's quite ambitious, and like even the way that she releases her music and the way that she makes her tours, she's constantly trying to break records. Like when she put out Lover, it had like 4 different deluxe versions, so of course she was going to sell a bazillion albums. Nobody sells a bazillion albums anymore because it's streaming. And now with the Folklore, it's like it's a new album. It was a surprise album, which is quite different from what she has always done, and I love that. It's also very interesting, specifically in the case of Taylor Swift. So she has a surprise album. She announces it the day before its release, and she also announces that there are like 8 different versions of the album and 8 different versions of a vinyl, and then a cassette. Like nobody listens to cassettes anymore. This is not 1989, you know? And this is such an obvious money grab, and I love her for it. I think it's incredible.
We were just actually here at home, we were just checking her website, and her shop was already full of other merchandise in relation to Folklore. So that's, I mean, there's a very clever merchandise side there that is very Capricorn. I agree with that, definitely. And so the words you use, the money grab, is actually quite it's actually quite an interesting sort of concept with such strong Capricornian energy. I do think there's a tension, there's an emotional tension here between her Cancer side that is probably much more emotional, and that regards music as a much more soulful and emotional activity, and Capricorn, which would regard music as a way to power, really, whatever that may, a way to realize ambitions. And I think that's quite an interesting thing. I also think that we mentioned this when we were discussing originally how to make the video. And one of the things we were discussing was looking at, predictive techniques. We'll probably don't go into that anyway, but it's just that she has a lot of planets in Capricorn. And as transits or progressions go through all of those planets that are so concentrated in the same place, she gets a lot of honors very fast. So this is one of the things that is quite remarkable, is just that she's always winning Emmys or whatever. She's always kind of being acknowledged as very, very talented, and it's really hard to find deeply important moments, because there are many deeply important moments, and so you are overwhelmed with all of this, which is in itself quite remarkable, I think. Yes. So is there something that you want to say, Maria? in regards?
Like for me, like it's true that she's quite acclaimed, like the Grammys, etc. And she won. Okay, so last year, and the album was the first album of hers that didn't get to 1 million copies in the first week. Well, the first album since her second album. So she had like 5 albums with 1 million copies in the first week, and then Lover was like 800,000, which is incredible still. But she didn't get to the 1 million that she wanted. But she that year, Lover was the global best-selling album of the year, regardless of not getting to 1 million copies first week. And then she was considered Woman of the Decade by Billboard, and she was artist, like male and female. She was Artist of the Decade by the American Music Awards, I don't know, association or whatever they are called. And so she has a lot of these awards, as you were saying, but I think for me the sales part is a lot more interesting, because I think she cares about that. She cares about those specific numbers. It's like it's a lot easier to have a lot of awards, and you have like Michael Jackson, Mariah Carey. There's a lot of artists who have a huge collection of awards, but like these massive monstrous sales is a very Taylor Swift and also Capricorn angle that she goes for. And then I think it's like incredible, and I really like it. I think it's very interesting of her to be so into this, that she finds all these little tricks about it. And yeah, I think this is it's quite interesting that the two of us managed to do a whole video about Taylor Swift without going into her her relationships, which was such a big part of the first half of her career, and we are just like not talking about it at all. And that's fine with me.
Yes, I think I think that's overdone. I think that's implicit in a lot of Scorpio things that we've talked about. I would mention very fast the moon in Aquarius. So I would say she would be targeted, because Aquarians always have this general feeling that they're being targeted for something, or that they're out of place. And I would imagine that could make some sense with Venus in Aquarius, and kind of, the way things are looked at. But I didn't really want to go there either. So that's, so that's that.
No, that's fine. No, it was just funny, because it's not what I care about either.
All of these things are sort of implicit, I guess, and are especially implicit in the first segment about Scorpio.
Yes, but also like her music in general, because it's a lot of it is about relationships. But personally, I don't care about the personal side of it. I only care about the artistic side, like the feeling that she got out of those relationships that she transported into song. And at the end of the day, that's what I care about when it comes to art. It's not the personal lives, it's the artistic lives.
There's a take, so this idea of a take, you have a take on something, and she has, and the interesting thing with the sort of very general astrological thing that we were doing here is that she has, she can have a Scorpio take on a relationship, or a Sagittarian take on a relationship, or a Cancerian take on a relationship, and that's basically what we're talking about. It's not a relationship by itself, but it's the way it's colored in general, as you were saying, and that way of coloring will then fit very well within certain astrological symbolisms, which is great. Okay, and I think this is enough for a YouTube video anyway. For a conversation about this, I think there's a lot more in-depth sort of analysis that can be done, but it's probably not the time and place right now. And so I wanted to thank you very much, Maria, for coming here and talk to me about these things. And it was a lot of fun, and I'm sure it will be pretty funny to anyone who watches it. And yes, that's it. So do you want to say any closing words? That's on you if you
no, I really just want to thank you for allowing me to talk about Taylor Swift, because I love talking about Taylor Swift, and it's great to have an opportunity to do it in a semi-professional way where we narrow it down to astrology and etc. It's this was a great fun for me, so thank you so much.
Okay, great. And I think
listen to folklore, guys.
Listen to folklore, guys. Okay, guys, so that was it. Thank you very much for watching. Please do follow Maria in her Twitter. She does cry a lot about astrology and Taylor Swift. That's what she asked me to say. And her Twitter handle is on the video description. And please do follow me on Instagram as well. And that's basically it. I'll be taking a break during most of August, but I'll come back with more astrological videos. So that's that. Bye bye.